Okay, this is called simple and compound interest, but really we're going to go a little bit beyond that. And once you completely understand what's going on in this, then you understand the whole thing with time value money. And until then, you might get some right answers, you might get a lot of right answers, but you don't really understand it, you don't really grok it. And I'm going to use my old 60s terminology there with grok. Okay, so you have to be able to understand at least the basic stuff and get the right answers to be able to move on to here. But once you've walked through this and you can get all this and you understand this, then you really understand time value money completely. So here's some definitions. First, simple interest is when interest is calculated only on the principal. Compound interest, interest is calculated on the principal, and any interest that you've already earned, you get to earn interest on again that next time, which means that you earn interest on interest. This is interest that you receive in one period because you had that money because you earned it in a previous period. Now the balance is how much money is in the account at that time. Principal is how much the account starts with. This would also be the present value. So simple interest. How much interest are you going to earn? Well, the amount of interest you earn is going to be the principal times the interest rate times the number of periods. So to compute that, say suppose I have $200, I invest it for 3 years at 10% interest. So I'm going to get $200. I'm going to get 10% of that, which would be $20. I'm going to get that 3 times. So I'm going to get $60 in interest. So if the account starts with $60 in interest, starts with $200, I'm going to finish with $260 because I get $60 in interest. Interest on interest. Well, I'm going to do this in the compound fashion, or looking at one at a time. So the same issue here, $200, 3 years at 10% interest. So I got the $20 in interest that I earned the first period. And I find that by saying, well, I get 10% of $200, $20. Get that the first period. So the next period, if I'm earning interest, I earn interest not only on that 200, but also on that 20. How much interest would I earn on that $20? Well, I would get $2 because that's 10%. $2 is 10% of 20. So I get that in the second year. So $2 is how much interest is earned on interest in the second year. In the third year, well, at this point I've earned $42 in interest so far after 2 years, and 10% of 42 is $4.20. So in year 3, I earned $4.20 of interest on interest. So how much interest I earned on interest total? Let me switch colors here so it's obvious. I got $2 in interest on interest in the second period, $4.20 in interest on interest in the third period. So I have $6.20 that I get in interest on interest that's got previously invested and continued to grow. Now in the first period, I earn no interest on interest because I don't have any interest to earn it on. So if you can run the account balances through time with simple and compound interest, I'm starting with different numbers here. So $350 and getting 6% interest every year. With simple interest, in year 1, start with $350. Year 1, I'm going to have 6% of $350, which is $21. Earn that at interest. So my account balance is going to go from $350 to $371. The next year, since I'm only earning interest on the $350, I'm always going to earn $21 in interest. $20 in interest every year. So my account balance is going to go up by $21 every year. That means that it's going to grow by a constant dollar amount. This is a linear growth rate. Simple interest grows by a constant dollar amount, or the balance grows by a constant dollar amount, and it's a linear growth rate. It's going to go by a straight line. Straight line. Okay. With compound interest, the amount of interest that I earn every year is actually going to increase because, say here, I start with $350, I get $21 in interest, so I go up to $371, exact same as simple interest. But in this case, I'm going to go from $371 is how much I'm going to earn interest on the second year. So I get 6% of $371, which is $22.26. Got to write my lines lower. $22.26. So the account value is going to go from $371 to $393.26 because it goes up by $22.26. The next year, in year 3, I earned 6% interest on $393.26. So we're earning $23.60 in interest. So the balance is going to go up to $416.86. It's growing by a constant percentage rate instead of by a constant dollar amount. And this constant percentage rate is 6%. So it's growing at an exponential growth rate, which means that it is going to be growing like that. Okay. So with compound interest, the amount of interest that you earn every year actually increases. With simple interest, it says the amount you earn interest is the same every year. All right, so continuing on with this, the amount of interest that is earned in a particular period can be found in two different ways. And here's an example to work with this through. How much interest is earned in the 5th year, only the 5th year. I don't care about all 5 years, just the 5th year here. If the account begins with $350 and earns 6% interest every year. So the first way to find this is to find the balance after the previous period. So instead of going the 5th year, I'm going to do this for the 4th period. And I just wrote out the math in here. So the future value is 350 times 1 plus 6%, or 1.06 to the 4th power, 441.87. So that's how much the account value would be after 4 periods. Well, I get 6% interest every year, so if I take 441.87, if I take the 441.87, multiply by 6%, I'm going to get $26.51. That is the amount of interest that is generated on that balance in the 5th year and only the 5th year. The second way of doing this, and the only reason I would say to look at this is because frequently we're going to find out this might be a part of a question, is that we could also look at, say, well, not only is I'm going to have this 441.87 after 4 years, but at the end of 5 years I have $468.38. So I find out how much I have after 4 years, how much I have after 5 years, and the difference is going to be how much interest I earned in the 5th year, and this is going to be the same number, $26.51. So if you want to find out how much money you earn in a particular year, you can find out how much you have at the end of the year and the beginning of the year and subtract, or you can find out how much you have at the beginning of the year, multiply it by how much what the interest rate is to get that same number, both times in this case, 26.51.